welcome to Sleep Begins. The day is over, the night is here, and it's time to give yourself permission to rest. Settle beneath your blankets, get comfortable, and allow the noise of the day to slowly fade away. Whether you're settling into bed or simply looking for a moment of peace, you've found the perfect place to unwind. Now, let's begin. Somewhere between midnight and morning, once the world had settled into a deep and gentle quiet, there stood a place almost no one had ever seen. It was called the Moonlit Library. No map could lead you to its doors. No traveler could stumble upon it by chance. The library only ever revealed itself once the last lights of evening had faded away, right as the very first dreams of the night were ready to begin. A single lantern hung above its tall oak entrance, glowing with a soft, silvery light, the kind of light that looked more like moonbeams than flame. Inside, the shelves stretched on and on beneath gentle shadows, rising higher than any ladder could reach, while tiny lanterns drifted lazily through the air, filling every corner with a warm, golden glow. Near the entrance, an old grandfather clock ticked along at its own comfortable pace, and everything inside the library seemed to move just as slowly, just as unhurried, as if time itself had decided to rest for the night. The Moonlit Library existed for one very special purpose. Each evening, beautifully bound blank books quietly appeared on a walnut desk at the center of the great reading hall. And before the sun rose again, every one of those empty pages would gently fill itself with a peaceful dream. A dream meant for someone, somewhere in the world, who had just closed their eyes to sleep. Some dreams became quiet evenings beside a glowing fireplace. Others turned into slow train rides beneath a sky full of stars, or lazy, rainy afternoons curled up by a window, or warm kitchens where a fresh loaf of bread had just come out of the oven. Every single dream was simple. Everyone was comforting, and everyone was written with the kind of care you might give to a letter meant for someone you love. Watching over the library, night after night, was its gentle keeper, a woman named Grace. Her silver hair was gathered softly behind her, and her midnight blue robe brushed quietly across the polished floor as she wandered among the shelves. She had cared for this library for so many years that even the oldest, dustiest books seemed to recognize the sound of her footsteps. Grace rarely spoke, but when she did, her voice was as soft as the sound of a page turning. Her closest companion was a fluffy white cat named Mochi. Most nights, you could find him curled up on top of a stack of thick, half-finished dream books, sleeping beneath the warm glow of a floating lantern. Every once in a while, he'd stretch one lazy paw, blink, open his amber eyes for just a moment, and then curl right back into an even smaller, cozier ball. Grace always smiled when she passed him. Somehow, the whole library felt warmer with Mochi purring quietly nearby, like a tiny heartbeat keeping the place company. As the grandfather clock welcomed midnight with 12 slow, gentle chimes, the first dream books of the night began to appear on the walnut desk. One was wrapped in deep blue velvet. Another was bound in smooth green leather, and a third was covered in soft, cream-colored cloth, embroidered all over with delicate silver thread. Grace stepped up to the desk and lifted the blue velvet book gently into her hands. It felt pleasantly warm, almost as though it had been waiting for her all evening long. She carried it over to her favorite chair, the one tucked beside the tallest window, and settled it into her lap. The whole library seemed to grow even stiller around her. With a small, quiet smile, she rested her hand on the cover and slowly opened the very first dream book of the night. The first page was blank. Grace wasn't the least bit surprised. Some dream books like to greet the night with a little silence before their story appeared, the way a person might take a slow breath before speaking. So she simply waited, watching the empty page glow softly beneath the light of the floating lanterns above her. Little by little, delicate silver words began to bloom across the paper. They didn't rush from one line to the next. Each sentence seemed to arrive gently, almost lazily, as though it were being written by moonlight instead of ink. Tonight's dream begins beside the sea. Grace smiled softly to herself. There was nothing more, just that one quiet line. She closed the book with the same quiet care she gave to everything in the library. Dream books had their own rhythm, after all, and they were never, ever meant to be rushed. The rest of the story would come along whenever it was ready. Holding the book close against her, Grace wandered slowly through the peaceful library. Shelves stretched out in every direction, each one filled with dreams that had already found their way safely into some sleeping heart. Their covers came in every soft shade you could imagine: blue, green, gold, warm chestnut brown, with simple little titles resting along their spines. The Little Bakery Before Sunrise, The Slow Evening Train, Rain on the Cottage Window, The Warm Quilt on Winter Hill. Grace always enjoyed reading the titles as she wandered past. Each one reminded her that even the smallest, quietest moments, a warm quilt, the smell of rain, a bakery just opening its doors, could grow into the most beautiful dreams. Before long, she reached one of her favorite rooms in the whole library. It was round, and books surrounded her on every side, floor to ceiling. Tiny lanterns floated lazily overhead, and the domed ceiling was painted to look like a peaceful night sky, full of slow, drifting stars. In the very center of the room stood a polished wooden table, and on it sat a silver teapot that always, somehow, stayed pleasantly warm. Grace poured herself a cup of fragrant moon tea. It carried the gentle scent of vanilla and chamomile, and it warmed her hands just as much as it warmed her from the inside. A few moments later, Mochi came padding into the room with slow, sleepy little steps. Without making a sound, he circled twice beneath the table, tucked his paws neatly underneath himself, and immediately drifted right back off to sleep. Grace laughed quietly to herself. No matter where she wandered in this enormous library, Mochi always managed to find the very coziest spot for his nap. She took another slow sip of tea and glanced over at the dream book resting beside her on the table. Somewhere inside that blue velvet cover, more pages were quietly writing themselves, word by gentle word. There was never any need to hurry. The moonlit library had all night, and every dream always found its own perfect ending, exactly when the time was right. After finishing her tea, Grace made her way back to her favorite chair by the tall window. Outside, the moon had climbed a little higher into the sky, filling the glass with a soft silver glow. Mochi followed along at his own sleepy pace, hopped up onto the wide cushion nearby, turned in a slow circle, and settled into yet another comfortable little nap. Grace opened the blue velvet book once more. Several new pages had quietly appeared. The dream had grown into a peaceful evening beside the sea. Gentle waves rolled across the sand in a slow, steady rhythm. A weathered wooden bench sat facing the water, and far off in the distance, a lighthouse swept its warm, comforting beam across the quiet shore. Tiny seashells rested where the tide had slipped away, and a cool evening breeze carried the fresh, salty scent of the sea right off the page. Grace read slowly, savoring each new line as it appeared. She never let herself skip ahead, even when she found herself curious about what might come next. Every dream deserved to unfold at its own peaceful pace, in its own good time. When she reached the middle of the book, the writing simply stopped. The pages beyond were still empty, still waiting. Grace closed the book with a small, understanding smile. Some dreams finished quickly, all in one sitting. Others liked to pause for a while before sharing the rest of their story. She had learned long ago that waiting was simply another part of the library's gentle rhythm. Nothing to worry over, nothing to rush. Just then, a tiny silver bell chimed softly somewhere among the shelves. Grace rose from her chair and followed the familiar sound. She straightened a few books that had leaned ever so slightly out of place, lit a lantern whose glow had begun to fade, and carefully returned a finished dream to its spot on the shelf, right where it belonged. Nothing about her work ever felt hurried. Each small task was carried out with the very same quiet care, the kind of care that made the whole library feel warm and welcoming, night after night after night. When everything was just as it should be, Grace returned to her spot by the window and opened the dream book one more time. A few new lines had appeared. The waves still whispered softly along the shore. The lighthouse continued its slow, steady sweep across the sea. But many pages still remained blank, patiently waiting for another quiet moment to arrive. "There is still time," Grace whispered gently, more to the book than to herself. She closed it and rested it on a small wooden stand beside the window, right where the moonlight could reach its blue velvet cover. Outside, the stars carried on their slow journey across the sky, and inside the moonlit library, the lanterns drifted peacefully through the silent halls, as calm and unbothered as ever. The dream wasn't finished. It was simply waiting for the night to tell the rest of its story, one gentle page at a time. The night slipped by as gently as the turning of a page. One by one, the dream books resting on the walnut desk quietly filled themselves with peaceful little stories. And, as each one was finished, Grace carried it lovingly to its place on the shelves, where it would wait patiently until its dream found its way to the sleeping heart it belonged to. Only the blue velvet book remained unfinished. Grace picked it up once more and opened it with quiet hope. A few new lines had appeared. The peaceful walk beside the sea continued on. Gentle waves shimmered beneath the moonlight. The lighthouse kept its slow and faithful watch, and a pair of seabirds drifted silently overhead before disappearing into the soft dark of the night. Then the writing stopped again. The remaining pages were still blank. Grace smiled, and she wasn't the least bit disappointed. Some dreams arrived all in one gentle rush. Others preferred to unfold slowly, across more than one peaceful night, and that was perfectly all right too. She closed the book with care and carried it to a small wooden shelf tucked beneath the tallest window, where only a handful of unfinished dream books rested, each one patiently waiting for the rest of its story to arrive. Grace slid the blue velvet book gently into its place. "Until tomorrow," she whispered softly, and somehow the words felt more like a lullaby than a goodbye. Nearby, Mochi stretched, gave one tiny yawn, and settled back into his favorite sleeping spot without ever fully opening his eyes. His quiet purring blended together with the steady, comforting tick of the grandfather clock, filling the whole library with a soft and steady rhythm. The sound of a place that had nowhere else to be.